Welcome back, Caddy Corner, episode 72. I'm Austin. This is Mom, and we're doing this again, I guess.
Round two.
Round two. Yeah, back to school series. The next 3 weeks are all going to be guest episodes, so don't miss out. Today, this is my mom. She teaches people about x-rays, and she knows about the medical field, and so that's what we're going to talk about. Is that a good intro?
I think that's amazing.
I mean, I think so too.
That might be the best intro I've ever got.
Yeah. Sweet. Glad we're on the same page. So yeah, we did the show. It had to have been like almost a year ago on like the same-ish timeline. Mm-hmm. So I don't even really remember what I asked you at all in that show. I know that I didn't take it at this angle with the notes that I did because I much more based my notes today off of the medical field itself.
Oh, wow.
And I want to ask you questions about that. Mostly because I feel like people don't know what they get themselves into whenever. That's kind of...
That is very true.
So that's what I want to talk about with this.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if you are new to the show, this is Caddy Corner where we give knowledge bombs every Friday. So
medical version.
Right. If you're into that, just subscribe and follow and stick around. So okay, without further ado, here we go. So yeah. So what I have written down for this first kind of question, and this is the longest one, I think, so you can ramble for as long as you want, but explain what a bachelor's degree looks like in the medical field. Like, and what I have written down is like the workload, like your class structure, clinical. Is it baccalaureate?
Baccalaureate.
Sure.
Baccalaureate. That's a new word for today.
That's close, though.
Or bachelor's. That was appropriate.
I knew bachelor's was appropriate, but I said, okay.
So I think that's a very good question because this does have an opportunity for me to give a couple knowledge bombs. Imaging or nursing or any kind of healthcare bachelor's degree is really the only degree that you can go about in a very strategic way to save a lot of money and also to get yourself actually in the workplace quicker. And so let me kind of break that down for you. So most of the big healthcare roles that people think about, I want to be a nurse, I want to be, work in the hospital. A lot of people say they want to be a doctor, but realize that there's a lot kind of encompassed in that. But more of the sort of support roles of healthcare. The majority of those roles you can enter into just with an associate's degree. An associate's degree is 2 years, and a lot of community colleges offer those, especially in our area. We have a lot of health programs in the areas. So my pathway through school was an associate's degree in radiology at Rowan Cabarrus Community College. And after 3 years, the first year I did all of my gen eds to get them knocked out, I was able to move into a full-time first shift job. So I worked on that job for about 10 years and got an opportunity to go back and complete my bachelor's degree with 2 more years of programming, which was done sort of at that time I had to actually come here to Cabarrus College and have classes in the evenings. Nursing is another role that you can complete in a 2-year program in a associate's degree, and then you can complete your BSN while you are working, and most of the BSN completion programs are again online, so you can do them while you're working. The reason that I'm kind of bringing these up and explaining this to you is that if you are one of the students that aren't really like super concerned about having that 4-year experience, like live on campus, all that college life stuff, if you actually want to try to get as close to your career as possible, as fast as possible, the community college is the way to do it. You can enroll in community college at a very cost-efficient rate. You can get those first 2 years knocked out, and then you can pick up the bachelor's completion programs like the ones we offer here at Cabarrus College or other colleges and universities. And usually, after you begin working in that field, the place that you will work for will offer educational assistance funding. So, for example, Atrium Healthcare owns our college. And so any healthcare provider that works at Atrium Healthcare full-time gets $3,000 toward college courses every year. And so that is a huge benefit. You basically get through your associate's degree at a pretty good price point at community college, start working, use that Ed Assist money to help offset the cost of the tuition for the bachelor's completion, which might be a little bit higher. And you can basically get your 4-year degree, with no debt. And I promise that is not something that you want to have whenever you exit college. If you can begin a pretty good income level job and have support to continue your education so you can go up the clinical ladder, and help offset the cost of tuition, that will really prepare you in the future to have a pretty comfortable life. So, did I ramble long enough?
Well, sure you did. But I think another thing that is unique about, and I don't know if it encompasses all medical fields of study, but it's like the clinical aspect of the schooling parts of it, where you have to actually go off.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think that any other field of study necessarily has something similar, where it's, I mean, effectively an internship that's baked into every field of study.
Yeah.
From my area of understanding. So what's that like? What can people expect if they like are, because I feel like that sneaks up on people. They're not expecting that maybe.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're going to go take some pictures of our skills labs, and you're going to interleave it in this video. So people that are listening, you're missing out. You need to
Sure.
watch the YouTube clip. But I would like, for people that don't know what our simulation space looks like, to see that, because what's really cool about providing care to a person is that you can't really practice that skill unless you have actual patients to practice on. And so we teach things in the classroom, and then we reinforce skills with our simulation equipment. That's, we have mannequins here that can do all sorts of different bodily functions, and they can code, and you can perform CPR on them. You can start IVs. You can, they can birth babies. There's a lot of kind of cool things they can do where you're simulating that with not a real person. But then you go over to the hospital and you actually do perform these skills on an actual person under the direction of a clinical instructor. So this is going to be a nurse, a radiologic technologist, somebody that's already been practicing in the field, and they're standing there with you and they're watching you and jumping in if anything kind of goes south. But that's basically how you're graded, which is different from a lot of other programs where you might just take tests or research or write papers. It's very much a hands-on learning experience. And one of the things I think that's special about our school is that we put our students in clinical extremely quickly. Our nursing students are in clinical their first semester, and so they've got their hands on patients, as they're learning, and that really helps to reinforce those concepts. So until you've actually performed an examination or performed a procedure, you really don't sort of know it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things that students get anxious about whenever they think about going to clinical is, I'm going to do something wrong, I'm going to mess up, whatever.
What if I hurt somebody?
What if I hurt somebody? And we don't want anybody to hurt a patient, but probably you're going to make a mistake at some point. And so we will allow students to sort of get to a certain point to where maybe they're laying out supplies and they've laid out the wrong supply, and then right before they go to get their patient, we'll say, okay, let's stop, let's think about this. And so we don't want students obviously to provide unsafe care, but we want them to think on their own. We are not going to tell them the right answers the whole way through, because at some point we're going to have to leave them there, and they need to be able to critically think. So that's one of the biggest pieces of being in the hospital and being in a clinical site, is having that experience with someone there, and then them leaving you as you become a professional. It's like getting your permit, driving with me, and then now your driver's license, and I'm gone. And so providing that skill set and helping them to get to that level of competence is our job. That's our big responsibility.
Yeah. So I guess like for like my degree works, for there's like my class workloads, what I expect to do most of the time whenever I'm going into my new semester. Chloe asked me what my classes are coming up, and I told her that I don't know, but I'm expecting to write a couple of papers, do a couple of projects, things like that. If you're going into a medical, either maybe you did your gen eds or RCCC, transferred in, what can you expect like a classroom workload to kind of look like? Like, is it more paper based? Is it more project based? Are you giving us like, coloring sheets? Like, what are we talking?
I love coloring sheets.
Yeah, I know you do.
So I'll just give you my approach, because every teacher is different, and you'll find that out whenever you go to college for anything, any career path. I've been a student forever. I'm still enrolled in a doctoral program right now. And one of the things that I think I've learned the most about being a student is things that I've liked and things that I have not liked in the classes and the way the classes are developed. And that's helped me to sort of figure out the way that I want to provide information to my students. So I like to look for things that are kind of current and cool and fun to relate to the students and what they like. But also we have to make sure that they are able to sort of demonstrate knowledge base. So it just really kind of depends. So the classes that I teach a bachelor's completion program for medical imaging and a bachelor's completion program for health sciences, leadership, and development. So basically I'm giving x-ray technologists a little upper level skill set, and I'm also allowing people with an associate's degree to come in and maybe learn about how to the healthcare management world or develop skill sets and become a healthcare educator like I am. And so all of my classes are online and we don't meet for class. So how do I make sure that my students are engaged and it's not just, read this chapter, answer 10 questions, I'm teaching myself is what I hear a lot of students say about online classes, why they don't like it. So I've integrated a lot of different types of things. We do classroom discussion. A lot of students don't like that.
I don't either. I think it's inefficient.
You do?
Yeah.
So one of the things I think that's important about it is making sure that you have the right prompt.
Yeah, well, I just don't think people ever want to respond, so you're not getting any kind of actual feedback. That's what I think.
So, and I think, again, it depends on the prompt.
Yeah.
So, for example, there's a course that I'm actually working on right now, and it's about medical errors. And I found a documentary on YouTube that's really amazing about a family that had two family members that had severe medical errors happen in the hospital setting, and had a family member to pass away from not getting a test result. And so it was really kind of like a hit hard kind of. And so our discussion board is about that video. So it's not like a check the box, I want to make sure you're doing busy work. It's a, we watch this video together. Now here's our chance to talk about it. And so I think discussion boards do have their purpose. Another thing that I like to do in my online classes that students hate are group assignments.
I can imagine that would be brutal, yeah. Oh, man.
But so this is something that I learned as a teacher. Whenever you work in healthcare, you have to work with a team of people, right? You work at Home Depot. You work with a team of people. I'm sure that there are people that work really hard, and there are people that don't really do anything.
Sure.
They all get paid the same, right?
Sure.
And so that gives you some thoughts about the people that really don't do their job that well, and you get a little disgruntled and you're upset. So one of the things about healthcare is that we don't really have time to sit around and be mad at somebody that's not doing their work, or just try to go, try to get upper level management to deal with it and fix these problems. We have to step up, be leaders, and deal with these types of problems ourselves. And so group work is important because that gives my students chance to work together as a group and learn how to hold each other accountable. And one of the things that I didn't do in the beginning of assigning these types of activities was help them realize why we are doing what we are doing. So I had a conversation one time with a student, and she was like, I've got the two girls that are in my group. They're a lot younger than me. I work. They try to talk in the middle of the night, and I'm asleep, and I get up early, and we can't all get together, and I'm doing my part, and I feel like we're not communicating. And one of the questions, she's like, this is just a horrible assignment. And I said, the person that was talking has actually been a manager in healthcare for a long time. And so my response to her was, you've been a manager for a long time. You're working with, other people that don't have a lot of healthcare experience. Here's your opportunity to step up and be a leader, to mirror the type of characteristics that you would want to see in your team, to delegate out assignments. I said, you have an opportunity here to demonstrate your skill set and hopefully help these girls learn, a little bit more. And I said, that's what being a manager is, right? And she's like, yeah. And then she says, oh, okay, I get it, And so I think one of the things that's tough is sometimes your teachers have these ideas in their head of why we are making you do what you are doing, but we don't really connect the dots for you. And so that can make classes and assignments seem kind of weird. So group work, discussion boards, sometimes little quizzes. If I assign a reading, I want to make sure that you're picking out the important points, and the easiest way is to sort of put a quiz to that. In face-to-face healthcare classes usually have some lecture time, and then you'll have a lab associated with that. And so the lecture time is basically just going to cover the content and the chapters, the readings, whatever you're testing, all the regular classroom stuff. Labs are going to be practical application of those skills. And so here, biology course has a lab. We have a biology lab, and you do experiments, and we have a microbiology lab. We have an anatomy physiology lab. You might do dissections and things like that. Same goes for the clinical courses. There are clinical skill labs where you learn. So you do your visual and auditory learning, and then you do your kinesthetic learning where you put your hands on it in the lab setting. A lot of times the classes for healthcare, it's a full-time job, and you need to kind of think about that, because that's one of the biggest hindrances that we have in people that are trying to do like a midlife job change. Like maybe somebody works over at the hospital in a secretarial role. They work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. They're basically going to have to move their shift or change their job to be able to come to our entry-level healthcare programs, because you're going to be in class every single day in lab and clinical. And so that's one of the biggest hindrances I think that people have, or they don't recognize they need to allocate that amount of time to their major courses.
I think that everything that you just talked about segues really well into this next kind of question that I want to ask, which is less medical-based and more just general classroom-based, which is how can or what can professors and students do in the classroom to just make the overall learning experience better?
Understand each other.
Yeah. That's hard, though.
It's hard.
Especially online.
It's hard online. Very hard online. I've had students that are very communicative with me. They talk to me. They send me emails, ask me questions, and I know them. I have students that never speak other than their assignments. They never ask for help. They never respond to my emails, and that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that that's a terrible thing. I feel like they've lost an opportunity because I feel like I'm a resource for them, and I want to try to help them, grow and get good jobs and put them in the right direction and make sure they understand and connect the dots. And sometimes that takes, a little bit of interaction from the student. I think one of the biggest things that causes issues with students and instructors are emails.
Yeah, that's a fiasco, man. Email, I think, is so inefficient for people that are my age.
Well,
it just doesn't make sense.
The way that you approach an instructor from a student lens, when you have an issue and you approach the instructor, can sometimes cause problems.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, because
tone's hard. Any kind of digital communication that's not like FaceTime is, I think, difficult.
I agree.
But anyway.
Well, and two, I think you're going to read that based off of the frame of mind that you're in.
Yeah, 100%.
And so if you
unless you're a sick writer, unless you can really write an email.
Yeah.
And get your message across. But that's hard.
This is an opportunity to utilize ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT. Get it after it, you know what I'm saying? Like,
create a email for my instructor asking why.
Yeah.
How I can improve my grades.
Help me suck up to my professor real fast, ChatGPT.
Yes, that would be a good prompt.
Yeah.
But I think that's tough. I think, one thing too, I want to say about online classes, online asynchronous classes, I think sometimes gives a chance for the quiet student that's scared to talk in front of people to actually shine. That's the only space, I think, because that I'm so much bigger online. Like the people that have this giant social media profile, but you see them out and they would be scared to speak to you and walk away. Yeah. I think that space is very, very beneficial for those types of people that have that type of.
Yeah, it's very welcoming.
Personally. Yeah.
Because also, and I guess I don't know because I've only ever taken one online class and it was a long time ago and we never even met for actual thing. But like those first day of class activities, you're probably not doing those in your online classes, yeah?
We have to have an assignment in the first week to document that you have attended class.
Well, I more so mean like you're not making them stand up and be like, my name is Austin and I like to ride skateboards.
Yes, that's exactly what I do. No, usually my introductory activity is more, this class is on,
whatever.
Let's just say basket weaving.
Sure.
Introduce yourself to the class. Tell us a little bit about your experience in basket weaving, you know. And so it's not, tell me how many
But
dogs you have.
are you on Zoom, or are you doing it as a discussion
No, it's
board?
a discussion
See,
board.
that's different though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because having
yeah.
to stand up and say, "My name is Austin, and I love basket weaving."
Yeah.
That's tough
Well, okay,
for people
so,
that are scared to talk in public.
so I'm glad you brought this up because I've started doing a couple things because people hate typing and hate discussion boards, and then we got ChatGPT we got to think about
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff. So I do have sometimes I'll have discussion threads where they have to post a video,
I love that. That's super cool.
but there's some people that don't.
Of course they're not. Yeah, of course they don't.
There's some people that don't, and my demographic in my program, most of these people are working professionals, and they are of
Older.
a different generation. I'm not going to say, like maybe
Millennial.
30s.
Does that count as millennial at this point? Probably
I think
does,
they're millennial. Yeah, they're millennials, but so that it's a little different.
Yeah, 100%. Well, they have a different relationship with video than
Yeah.
I do. Because whenever I think of video, Caleb and I talk about this sometimes. Whenever I think about video, I literally just think about it as a way to communicate information immediately. It's the most efficient way for me to communicate information.
And you really have to know what you're talking about when you do a video.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
Because you can make yourself look real dumb. Real dumb. I'm so serious. Because whenever you look into the camera and you say something, you're saying it with full confidence because
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
And if you're wrong, it's insane.
and it's there, and
Yeah,
everybody
bro.
hears it. And
Yeah.
you don't ever go back and watch your video, so you don't know
No.
if you said things that are wrong or
I
not.
never know. Never know. After I edit it once, it's done. Yeah.
So what? Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
As a student, but see, and I don't want you to answer skewed on just your opinion. I want you to
Okay.
think about the people that are in your classes
Okay.
that you sit alongside. If you were to have an online class that had discussion boards
Mm-hmm.
and the requirement was a video,
Mm.
do you think that would freak people out?
Yeah, definitely.
What if it had options, the video or a written discussion board, and then that gives
What about like
the
what about
student
what
the
about
choice.
an audio?
or an audio?
I think that a lot of people don't like, especially in an online class. Like if you have an online class and you don't day one paint especially if you don't meet, like if you're not getting on Zoom,
Mhm.
but even if you are getting on Zoom, but you don't have the expectation that your camera has to be on or anything like that,
Yeah.
then people aren't going to want to show their faces probably in class just
That's
because
true.
it's not the expectation.
I think an audio clip's good. I've done that before.
Me too, because number one, it's just way more efficient than typing something. So
Yeah.
much more efficient than typing something. But you still have the same chance to make yourself sound really dumb, so you have to consider that.
That is true.
It's a lot easier. I mean, you can just edit yourself easier. Everybody knows how to edit a document. Not everybody knows how to edit a video. And I'm not saying that I'm some sort of genius, but,
I
it's
think
not
you're
everybody's skill
pretty-
set.
You're pretty smart though.
I mean, I like to think so, but
Yeah.
but there's no telling. But
But do you think an average student,
I think that they would probably do if you gave them text-based, video-based, or audio-based, they'd probably choose audio-based.
but
you
do
would
you think
probably
that
have more
having
text-based.
3 choices would be overwhelming, or do you think it would be welcome?
I personally prefer more choices.
You do?
Yeah, because then there's just less chance that I have to talk to the professor about, listen, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I honestly hate that conversation way more. I hate having to go up to the professor and be like, okay, like I know that you offered like a video project and a text-based project, but like this could be done in like 30 minutes if you just let me talk about it in audio real fast. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So like
yeah.
I'm going to put the same amount of time it would take it into this podcast as I'm going to do into a video,
Mhm.
and I'm going to give you the same quality of product just
Yeah.
because it's more efficient. So I would rather have more I'd rather you give me 15 options. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but I think that freaks people out.
I think, yeah,
But I
when
think
you get it's a little overwhelming, but I do like audio, video, and text.
Me
I
too.
think that's good. And that would be interesting to see how
And who
how it changes
Yeah.
over the next
and who utilizes
maybe like
what?
5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people that are my age don't really care that much about submitting a video of themselves. But discussion board is weird because then I don't know, like what I would think is I was like they could just at any time my classmates can just go back and like listen to me talk about basket weaving. And I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, like that's like a little strange.
But too,
Or like look at my face.
so okay, I'm thinking about TikTok because everybody loves TikTok, right? So you got this little video, it lasts 30 seconds.
Sure.
You have the opportunity to comment.
Hmm?
I mean, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
That's a discussion board. You know,
Yeah, I mean sure.
so
It just depends on the subject matter.
it
you know?
does. It does, and I think it's tough because I think that people, when grades are associated with things, they want it to be like so good.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, and
I see that so often.
and then they end up making like a 30-minute video, and nobody's gonna watch.
Well,
that.
or especially with video projects, people will stress out about them for so long. I'm like, man, it's
yeah,
not that big of a deal.
I don't want to stress anybody out.
But I don't think that you can stress them, because that's the point of like making a TikTok. It's like if I wanted to, I could swipe up right now, go to TikTok on my iPad, and then like just put like record my face and then post it. You know what I mean? Like it's not supposed to be overly edited.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean there's not people that are doing exactly that. But what I more so mean is like when you don't know how to make a video, then you just freak out because people tell you, or making videos is not something that like most people do. And so you just kind of, I think something like whenever you start to do something for the first time that most people don't do, or is like kind of difficult innately, you freak out and it's super overwhelming.
Gets, well, yeah.
People just get scared of that because like you drag your first clip into iMovie and you look at iMovie, and like whenever I look at iMovie, I think that a caveman can do this, but I'm built different. But I just mean like, but not everybody, everybody feels differently. So I don't know. It's weird, But something that I would also, this is like, if I had to do a discussion board for something, and let's say it had to be like, I don't know, 200 words, I would be very likely to like pull my mic to my face on my desk and like use dictation and talk the discussion post in there.
That's awesome.
That would be something that I do that a lot. Like if
I love that. I mean, I love that you have that tool to help you with your efficiency, and you can utilize that.
I do that. I do that a lot, like for text-based stuff. Like because I can just talk way faster than I can type. Way faster.
Yeah.
I think most people probably can.
Not me.
You don't think so?
I can type pretty fast.
You can talk pretty fast too, though.
That's true. I've tried to slow down.
At talking? It's hard, though. It's really hard. But yeah, I don't know. I think like, I also think that one of the biggest things that and this goes for professor and student, that can just like really hinder the learning experience throughout the semester is just like the mentality of both, because you have professors that are just in complete autopilot mode, and there's no avoiding that, and that's fine. But then you also have students who are like in college and they're not there to like learn anything. They're there to like play basketball, or they're there to like, I don't know, like hang out with girls, which is like fine. But, and I'm not saying it like necessarily gets in my way of learning, but I guess I just get kind of sad whenever people have opportunities and they don't like take them. That is like makes me sad a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not gonna lie. There's been some classes that have been a lot more interested
100%.
in than others. Like I had to take a class in my doctoral program on education law, and we looked at like cases and things that happened at big colleges and lawsuits, and I was all over that. I was like CSI crime investigator. But then you do a class on strategic planning and it's not really as fun. Yeah. So that's one thing too that I've, as an instructor, tried to kind of take note of is, sometimes there's going to be content that's going to be boring. Mm-hmm. I had to teach a class on compliance and accreditation, and that's just rules and regs. And how do you make that fun? And I even tell my students, I'm trying really hard to make this fun. And so finding like ways that you could kind of dig into violations and stuff so people could kind of, that made it kind of fun for them. And then also relating it back to like, you need to know this because of blah, blah, blah. So I think that might be something too. It might not always be the most enjoyable thing, but there's going to be a nugget of any learning experience that you have that you can take with you somewhere else.
I think that's the reason why I don't mind going to school, is because I go to class with that mentality. Yeah. Like I just think there's no way that I sit in this room for 16 weeks and I don't learn one thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? That learning might be, and it might be a little different for me, but with you too, because you're doing your AV stuff. But sometimes what I learned was, if I create a course, I'm not going to be disorganized like this instructor was. And that is what my takeaway, from the whole course. Like, this was a mess and this caused me anxiety, and I'm going to make sure that I don't do that for people in the future. And so for you might.
Mine's been more so like I'm not going to take another class with this professor because I don't like how they run their class, or holy crap, I read the syllabus and it was exactly what it said it was going to be, but I didn't believe it was going to be, for, you know what I mean? Or like, or you know what I'm saying?
This exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, exactly. Or no, it didn't exceed my I read it and I was like, no shot. And then I got clickbaited.
And I'm going to say, this is another sidebar conversation, but I will say that the more educated people that I have interacted with, the more it has helped me to recognize my potential at growth, because I've always kind of been like, in high school, it's like a C student, and radiology I passed, but I wasn't like high honors like my husband was, and he pulls out his diploma and shows me. But I never really thought, I could have a master's degree. I'm a smart person too, until, I just sort of get around and see, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do that. I could do this. I could speak. And like getting the confidence to be able to do that was a big, huge boundary for me, because I was always terrified to get up in front of people and talk. And So those were things like personal growth things that I did to kind of help me jump over that boundary. But I mean, really, as far as becoming a teacher, you only have to know a day more than the students do. So it is a very long process to kind of really get comfortable in that content. And I think, unfortunately, students now have access to so much information and Google and stuff, they can really see through instructors that might not be confident in that 100%. Content. And that causes kind of a bad rip for all of us, maybe sometimes. So,
you think so? For educators in general?
I think sometimes.
Does that happen for medical a lot? Because it definitely, I think about that all the time whenever I'm in my DMP classes. Is I'm like, if I really needed to like learn this, 911 learn this, I could in like 3 hours of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But another thing to consider, and this is for all of you guys, you don't want to sit down and watch 3 hours of YouTube videos straight. You don't. And you don't want to take notes on it either. So, anyways.
So are you telling me not to put 3 hours worth of YouTube videos in my class?
Just cut them into 1 hour. Just cut them into 1 hour clips,
just
bro.
Cut out the one piece.
Just cut them into clips.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty valid point. Healthcare, however, has so many rules and regulations.
That's what I mean.
I don't think you could Google.
Well, it also doesn't matter if you do. If I look up, how do I do a CAT scan? I might learn it, and I might know.
Yeah.
But I don't have a piece of paper that says I do, or a badge that says I do.
Oh, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
It's like it doesn't matter.
And there are people that have pieces of paper and badges that say that they know it, that don't really know what to do.
But that's what I mean. That's exactly.
Yeah. So I do feel like there are new opportunities for people to learn skills to help them get into the workplace that are different from our traditional thoughts of college. So do you know about the massive online courses, MOOCs? Have you heard about those?
Well, there's tons, like Skillshare, Masterclass, Coursera.
Tons.
Yeah. Tons.
Yeah. So and
certificates
then
and
badges, certificates.
Sure.
That's kind of a new. They're called stackable credentials. And so you can earn these little certifications in, like Adobe or whatever. And colleges are actually starting to recognize those toward college credit. So if you're a person that's like doing these little online skills and things like that and kind of building up a resume, community colleges are now using those stackable credentials as opportunity to kind of do continuing education in a short time frame and be able to use it to gain credits toward an associate's degree.
Yeah. That's really smart. It's really
that's
good.
the future, and that's probably what you're going to see in the next 10, 15 years because education has become so expensive, and that's a big problem in our country, and a lot of people are bringing that to light. And so what's the solution? Train somebody. Train somebody how to do a specific job in a very short time frame at a cost-efficient manner, and then get them to work. And then if they want to use that to kind of build, an academic curricula after that, then that's something that can be kind of used forward. I'll just give you an example of a way that we sort of do that here. So after you get your radiology associate's degree, if you want to do anything else in x-ray, mammography, computed tomography, MRI, you have to do class and you have to take a test. Have to take a registry and do competencies. The requirements for the class are that it's only 16 clock hours. So you could do 16 little webinars, 16 hours
one
of
day.
webinar. Yeah, you could do it
one day.
Well, that's a big day. But
but you could though.
But that's the requirement from the certification agency. And so a lot of people have advanced credentials because they've done a little Con Ed class like that, which is basically a stackable credential.
Yeah.
So what we allow at the college is if they come to us and they have those credentials, we can give them what we call lifetime experience credit, and that gives them college credit for that degree or that certification, and it helps them sort of get through the program faster. So there's an example of using these like sort of short time frame specific training courses to help with the workforce skill, and then also to get college credit for it. So you'll see that becoming more popular. I think,
I always wondered about that because I think it's probably too soon for you to be able to do for me to take one Skillshare course and be like, I know how to digitally market. You know what I mean? not necessarily that I wouldn't feel that way, but maybe like an employer wouldn't think that way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I mean, who knows? I think it's too early right now, but maybe in like 4 years, because you never know.
Well, but if you're in a role where that is a small component of your job,
then exactly.
Then
super
something
easy.
like that could help.
And I think that's like a super valuable thing. You know what I mean? Because then you have so much more flexibility too over what you learn.
Yep.
Just because
You do it on your own time.
And you can literally just pick the things that, like, if you run into a problem and you're like, I need to know how to build a computer real fast. You just watch a thing and then you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And I think too, like, at least with there's a lot of like online creators that I watch who have made like online courses that you do. And so it's like, this is how you edit videos. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Or this is how I leverage Instagram, and it's an hour-long thing, and you pay $100 and you learn how to use Instagram.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
that's
I mean,
what we should do.
Well, but
we need
maybe
to start a business.
But what I mean, well, I mean, duh, right? But what I mean is like maybe educators eventually have to do that. So maybe you make a course that's like, this is how you.
Oh, I've taken a bunch. I've taken and the thing about it is I take the class. The class is free, but if you want the certification, then you have to pay the fee.
Yeah, I know about that.
And so I'm usually like, I don't care about the certification. I just want to learn about the class. And I mean, they're through Yale, they're through Harvard, they're and specific targeted topics that like maybe I need to learn a little bit more about, maybe healthcare informatics or information systems or something like that. And it's like, oh, I just need to know a little bit about this, or maybe this compliance issue, and so it's been very helpful for me. I've done a lot of them.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe what it looks like in 5 years is it's like there's a lot of collegiate employed professors who, as their side gig, they're doing online courses.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
That are like designing, mammography in 3 hours, and it's like, some kind of thing.
Well, that's already kind of that's.
But like what, like maybe that, because I've always thought of like if you're, not that if you become a professor, there's like no more going further up than that, but it's just like you work in the confines of your institution, but then you don't have to, because if education, because information is already readily available because of the internet, but like education isn't, because whenever you think about education, at least what I think about is like, I get to learn the stuff and I get like a cool sticker that says I know how,
Yeah.
Because that's what's important. It really doesn't, in so many cases, I think, doesn't really matter what you actually know. It matters what other people think you know.
That's
But it's true.
That is kind of sad.
Whether you want it to be true or not, though.
That is kind of sad, but it is kind of true.
Exactly.
Yes.
Whether you want it to be or not true.
But I will say personally, if you don't know and people think that you know, then you're putting yourself in a really bad situation
sketchy,
whenever you need to do.
Exactly. But also, if on the other side, it's like if you do know stuff and people don't know that you know stuff, then it's the same difference. It's just the net negative of that.
Well, I know a lot.
I like to think I do too. I like to think I do too. Okay. I think I have one more question here that I want to ask you, because I think it's good for the people to know. And this kind of goes back to the whole medical side of things. So I just want you to do a pros and cons of the medical field, from a maybe professional side, and then also if you want to go into the academia side of it, you can, but it's up to you. If they're different.
Pros, you're going to make a good living. There are so many jobs open. People are always going to be sick, so you always have employment. You get to help people, and that, I hate to even say that out loud, because in a lot of the college applications, it's why do you want to go into this field? And 99.9% of the times that essay will start out with, because I want to help people. But being a part of someone's journey whenever they are ill or whenever they are scared, that it takes a certain skill set. And so that is extremely fulfilling as a profession. I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth in healthcare, and there's a lot of space to sort of spread out. So any field that you want to go into, you have an opportunity to either work as a clinician, to become a manager or a leader, to become a consultant, just like you said, develop educational opportunities, be a teacher. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for you not to just be kind of stuck in this job forever if it's not truly like your calling. And I think it's a good way to kind of, provide good support for your family. You're going to get good insurance. You're going to get benefits, 401k, education support. There's a lot of support that you'll have through the hospital systems. Cons. My first thing for pros was you're going to make a good living. Cons are going to be going into a healthcare role with a mentality of nurses make $60 an hour and I want to make $60 an hour. There's a reason that, some healthcare roles are paid at the level that they're paid at, because it is an extremely intense job. You are going to see, people at their worst, And that's not just something that you're going to have to deal with like emotionally, like from a sad perspective. You're going to get, people that are mad, people that are angry, that people that have waited for hours and hours, and you're the first person they've had a chance to talk to, and they're going to let it all out on you. And so you're going to, meet people at their worst. So definitely you have to have the opportunity to be able to, or the skill set to be able to compartmentalize that, because if that bothers you and you take that home with you and you can't wipe that off, then it will psychologically impact you. It's a physical job. If you have issues walking, lifting, bending, pulling, if that's you standing particularly, then this job is not for you. That is one of the things I think with clinical that students don't realize, because our clinical hours, basically here at the college, our nursing students do a 12-hour clinical rotation, and there's not very many people that are y'all's age that stand 12 hours a day and understand that is hard. It is hard to do that physically. And so
what kind of shoes are they rocking? Is Crocs not allowed?
I mean, I've had students show up with these little
that's a crazy move.
Vans on, like, yeah.
Dude, these are straight rubber.
And they try to get their cute little shoes, and they come in, and the next day they've gone and bought another pair. Like, there's a lot that kind of goes into that. I've got, varicose veins all over my legs from standing as much as I have. And so one other thing I think that's tough about the job is you don't always get a break. Like, you're work 12 hours. If you don't have anybody to relieve you for lunch, relieve you to pee, like, sometimes that doesn't happen. And so it puts a lot of stress on your body. And so you have to be able to manage that. And I think, for me, moving from the hospital, third shift, 12-hour job to the classroom was kind of a
obvious thing to do.
A good move, because, I'm at a time now in my life where I'm not as, I guess, physically fit as I used
But you're also older. Not that you were old whenever you.
Well,
not that
I
you're
mean,
old
there's
now,
people
but
that, they're where I worked before. One of the techs that worked with us was 72 years old when she retired.
But as soon as she sits down, like, I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
Because I also think that, and I don't know anything about science, but like, if you do that for your whole life, and like, as soon as you stop doing it, it's gonna be tough. That's gonna be hard on your body too.
Yeah.
Because it's that sudden that shift.
Yeah.
I think that throws people that
It is. And I think another thing that people don't realize is, you have to be very skilled at critically thinking. There's nobody there to stand beside you and hold your hand and help you make decisions. And so if you have difficulty making decisions, if you are not knowledgeable of the content or the processes that you need to be knowledgeable of, then you're a liability. And that's not something that the hospital needs to be worried about as much as you need to be worried about. The hospital definitely is worried about having a liability there, but if you do something against a patient that causes them harm, you are just as liable as that hospital is. And so that is a big thing that people need to realize. You just can't show up and watch a YouTube course and be, an ICU flight nurse. Like, there's a lot that kind of goes into that, and mistakes happen. And how are you going to handle that? How are you going to manage that? How are you going to overcome that? So I think that's something people need to be aware of. It's a very, very different type of role than, working at Home Depot.
Sure. But give me a thing. It's like a very unique, I think, job thing too. Because, I don't know, bro. 312s is tough too.
312s I think is amazing. That's my preferred schedule. 312s third shift.
Isn't that that's pretty normal for healthcare workers? That's it's not very common to see otherwise, right?
If you work in a doctor's office, you're going to get that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 schedule, but most hospitals are doing 312s, and the reason behind that, even where they weren't doing that before, is because that's what people want. They want to have 4 days off.
Sure.
And I even worked, when I was a student, I worked 16-hour shift. So the weekend shift was 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Sunday. And then you had to work 1 8-hour shift during the week, and that was your 40 hours. So as a student working a 16-hour day, that was kind of rough too. But I loved it, because I was like, I get my whole work week done in one day. And I have the other time to kind of have life. So it just depends. I mean, I've done both. And there are some roles at the hospital that operate on a 8 to 5, more clinically based appointment type roles.
You just don't see a lot of 3 to 12s. It's like if that's something that people are interested in.
Yeah.
Like if they're interested in the time off,
Yeah. Or people, 10s, 4 10s.
Maybe people don't realize that options like that even exist in like career paths, you
Yeah.
know? Because I think a lot of people, like, especially whenever you're like in high school, you don't even think about like how much time 40 hours a week is.
It's
you
a
know?
lot. And that's amazing too. One other thing you have to think about is you spend more time with your work family than you do your regular family sometimes.
Mhm.
And so when you think about working in healthcare, being around the right
People super
team.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that happened with COVID is everybody got so overly stressed and felt so ill supported, and it created a lot of toxic environments in some departments because people were just fed up, frustrated, burnout. And that impacts the whole, nobody wants to show up to work with somebody that hates their life. And,
because it rubs off, man.
it does. And it creates this, what's the rotten apple in the pouch or whatever. Everybody goes rotten. So I think that's something too, that people that are coming into healthcare right now have this huge opportunity because there's so many jobs open. They really can like shop and pick the best place. And so as healthcare managers, they're like wanting to try to make sure that they got a good culture so that they want to pick them and want to come work for them. And so it's really it's almost like instead of the student like on this job interview during their clinical instruction, it's more like they are interviewing the site to see if they want to work there.
Right.
And
They have to pitch
that's a
themselves.
huge shift. No, the site.
I mean, that's what I mean. The site has to pitch itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's tough because burnout is big right now. So hopefully that stuff's starting to change. And
We talked to Brennan. Brennan talked about that, how
Yeah.
important it was to like make a
good impression.
well, not even make a good impression, but like you don't work as efficiently whenever there's just other stupid things to worry about.
Exactly.
Like everybody has their feelings hurt or whatever. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And I mean, like that's super interesting because like, and I think in a lot of ways too, probably forever, like you'll have your choice of job if you go down the medical line. You know what I mean? Like there's always going to be, I think, openings there just
Yeah.
because it's like scary. Or a lot of people think that it's like a big academic workload because a lot of people think that only doctors work in hospitals. You know?
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of wanted to take this show and more of a teach people about what it even means to like learn about healthcare. And
I
get
think
jobs and
I
stuff
want
like
to make one more point about something you said, only doctors. So sometimes people think, I want to be a doctor, and then they realize maybe I'm not going to be a doctor. There's a pathway that you can go that is very smart if you're thinking about wanting to be a provider. So you don't have to be a medical doctor to be a provider. You could be a nurse practitioner. You could be a PA, a physician's assistant. And the requirement to get into those programs, especially PA, is that you have a bachelor's degree in a health field. So if you go to get an associate's degree in nursing or an associate's degree in radiology, you later do a bachelor's degree completion program, and then you decide I want to go to PA school, all of those credits transfer straight into PA school. Some of the other things I think that people do that I think is unfortunate is go to 4-year college because they want to be a PA, and so the other space or the other academic program that's pulls from that is biology. So they'll do a 4-year biology degree and then go to PA school, which is another 2 years. Basically, it's a master's degree. So you've spent 4 years
learning biology,
learning about content that basically the only job you can get would be
park ranger,
be a teacher.
Yeah.
Or
soil sample
like
specialist.
a high school teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe get a job at a lab. Not a whole lot of opportunity for just a bachelor's in biology. However, if you have nursing or radiology, here's a chance for you to go ahead and start working. Use that money that you got from your workplace to pay for your bachelor's, build that bridge into PA school, and then you have the opportunity to be a provider. So I think that it's smart to kind of go that route, especially if you're not 100% sure on what you want to do, because when you stair step yourself in, then you see all the other opportunities that are available for you that you don't know that's outside of doctor or nurse.
Yeah, and you get to know what you don't like and like.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I've done. I've worked through these degrees, and so I've made sure that I picked degrees that either help me in my current role or help me get to where I need to go, instead of just picking a degree that I think's fun and wasting that time and money on something that's not gonna
yield anything.
Yeah,
it's an investment.
move me forward. Yeah. So.
Boom.
Yay.
What a show.
We're going to go get some pictures of our lab so you can see all of our cool stuff.
Yeah, sure. We'll do that. Even though all I brought was my phone.
That's okay.
We can take some iPad pictures in the lab. That'll be fun.
Yes. Definitely.
Okay. Well, that's it.
Right.
We just went for so long, I think.
I think so too.
Okay, cool.
I love it.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, cool. Next week, Caleb's dad will be back on the podcast. I guess spoiler alert. If you made it all the way this far, then it's fair enough to know. So, Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
All right.
All right.
Have a great semester.
Oh, yes. Good job, Mom.
23, 24.
Yes.
Make it
job.
good.
Make it good. Don't fail.
Don't fail.
Peace.